In today's video, we are going to talk about the Hmong identity and trace their migration from China to Southeast Asia. This has been our channel, and today we are talking about the untold story of the Hmong people. If you would like to learn more about other cultures and ethnic groups around the world, please make sure to subscribe. The Hmong people are an ethnic group native to the mountains of China. Their history can be traced back thousands of years, but many of their traditions and customs have been lost due to assimilation and attempts to erase their culture. Very little is known about the early history of the Hmong people because they never had a written language. Most of what we do know comes from stories passed down through generations. Traditionally, the Hmong people lived in a patriarchal society, typically living in villages of 200 to 300 people. They were farmers who grew rice, corn, and vegetables and raised chickens and pigs. They also kept bees and gathered honey, which they used to treat various illnesses. The Hmong were animistic, believing that the souls of ancestors could influence the course of events in the lives of the living. They also believed that there were evil spirits that caused illness and misfortune. And so they developed a complex system of rituals and taboos to protect themselves from these malevolent forces. One of the most well-known aspects of Hmong culture is their distinctive clothing, which is often colorful and intricately designed. Each garment has a special meaning and significance, and the patterns are often passed down from generation to generation. The women's clothing is typically more elaborate than the men's, and the colors and designs often reflect the wearer's social status and age. Another important aspect of Hmong culture is their traditional music, which is typically performed with instruments such as the keej, a type of vertical flute, and the kai, a type of drum. The music is often used to accompany traditional dances, which can vary widely depending on the region and the occasion. Some dances are performed during festivals, while others are part of religious ceremonies. It is important to note that the Hmong people are not a homogeneous group, and there is significant variation within the Hmong-speaking peoples. In terms of language, customs, and beliefs, this diversity is the result of centuries of migration and interaction with other ethnic groups. Today, the Hmong people face various challenges, including poverty, discrimination, and assimilation. However, despite these challenges, they continue to preserve their unique culture and traditions. They have a rich history that dates back thousands of years, and their art, music, and literature reflect their resilience and adaptability. The Hmong people have a vibrant culture that has survived centuries of migration and persecution. Their distinctive clothing, music, and artwork are just a few examples of the richness of their cultural heritage. Now let us go through the long journey of the Hmong people. There are several theories about where the name Hmong came from. According to one theory, it comes from the word Bon, which means free or independence. Others believe that it comes from Hmong, the name of a legendary Hmong ancestor. Whatever its origin, the name Hmong has been used to refer to this ethnic group for centuries. The earliest known record of the Hmong people can be found in a Chinese text called the Records of the Grand Historian, which was written in the 2nd century BC by Sui Maqian. The text describes the Hmong as a nomadic tribe that lived in the mountains of southwest China. During the Han Dynasty, the Hmong people were known to produce high-quality silver items and were often hired by the Chinese to mine for precious metals. Despite their skills, the Hmong were often viewed as barbarians by the Chinese, who considered them to be uncivilized and backward. This perception was likely due to the MLZ's animistic beliefs in their traditional clothing and customs. The Chinese saw the MLZ's reverence for nature and their use of traditional medicines as superstitious, and their distinctive clothing and body decorations as strange and primitive. Despite the Chinese perception of them, the Hmong people continued to thrive in their mountainous homelands. They developed a rich culture and a strong sense of community that allowed them to survive in a harsh and unforgiving environment. Unfortunately, the Hmong people's peaceful way of life was shattered in the 20th century, when they were caught in the crossfire of the Chinese Civil War. As the war intensified, the Hmong were forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in the mountains of Laos and Vietnam. Many of them never returned to China. The Hmong people's migration to Southeast Asia was a long and arduous journey. They traveled through dense jungles and over treacherous mountain ranges, often without food or water. Many of them died on the journey, and those who survived were severely weakened and traumatized by their experiences. Once they arrived in Laos and Vietnam, the Hmong people were able to start new lives. They found refuge in the mountains and were able to continue their traditional way of life as farmers and hunters. However, they were still targets of the Chinese government, which saw them as a threat to national security. In the 1960s, the Chinese government launched a campaign to eradicate the Hmong people, which included the burning of their villages and the killing of their men, women, and children. This genocide resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Hmong people and forced many others to flee to neighboring countries. One of the main reasons that the Chinese government targeted the Hmong people was because of their alleged links to the CIA. During the Vietnam War, the Hmong people provided valuable assistance to the CIA by gathering intelligence on the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army. The CIA recruited Hmong soldiers and trained them in guerrilla warfare tactics. These Hmong soldiers fought alongside the South Vietnamese Army and American troops and played an important role in several key battles. After the war ended in 1975, the CIA abandoned the Hmong people and they became targets of the new communist regime in Vietnam. Many Hmong people fled to neighboring countries such as Thailand and France to escape persecution. Today, the Hmong people are still fighting for their rights and recognition. They continue to face discrimination and poverty, and their traditional way of life is under threat. However, they are an incredibly resilient people, and they have shown a remarkable ability to adapt and survive. Their story is a reminder of the importance of cultural diversity and the need to protect the rights of indigenous people around the world. Another theory states that they originated from the Yao people. So over time, they migrated from their original homeland and settled in the mountainous regions of China. According to this theory, they gradually developed their own distinct language and customs, eventually becoming known as the Hmong people. Some scholars believe that the Hmong people originated from an ancient tribe known as the Miao, who lived in the mountains of southern China as far back as the Shang dynasty. Over time, the Miao people are said to have split into two groups, with one group becoming the Hmong and the other becoming the Yao. Both groups share many similarities in their language, customs, and beliefs, which supports this theory of a common ancestry. The Hmong people's journey from China to Southeast Asia was a long and difficult one. They were forced to flee their homes in the 20th century due to the Chinese Civil War and later the Vietnam War. Along the way, they faced starvation, disease, and persecution. Many Hmong people were killed by the Chinese government, which saw them as a threat to national security. Those who survived fled to neighboring countries such as Laos and Vietnam, where they were able to establish new lives as farmers and hunters. Today, the Hmong people continue to face challenges, but they are an incredibly resilient group who have shown a remarkable ability to adapt and survive. The Hmong people have made significant contributions to the world despite the challenges they have faced. Their traditional medicine practices, for example, have helped to preserve ancient healing techniques that may have otherwise been lost. Their art and literature have also provided a valuable window into their culture and way of life. The Hmong people's story is a testament to the human spirit's strength and resilience. Despite the persecution and hardships they have endured, they have managed to maintain their cultural identity and traditions. They continue to be a vibrant and integral part of the communities they live in today, and their story serves as a reminder of the importance of diversity, tolerance, and understanding in our world. In conclusion, tracing the migration of the Hmong people from China to Southeast Asia reveals a long and arduous journey marked by war, persecution, and struggle for survival. Caught between the Chinese government's genocidal campaigns and the complexities of the Vietnam War, the Hmong people's story is a testament to their resilience and adaptability. Forced to flee their ancestral lands, they sought refuge in the mountains of Laos and Vietnam, where they established new lives as farmers and hunters. Despite the challenges they continue to face, the Hmong people's rich cultural heritage and contributions to various fields serve as a reminder of their strength and determination. Their journey from China to Southeast Asia is a significant part of their history, and their story continues to be an important part of our shared human narrative. And while they may share certain physical characteristics like their dark skin, curly hair, and almond eyes, which reflect their common ancestry, each group has its own unique culture, traditions, and history. Yet despite their differences, they all share a common bond forged in the fires of adversity. They are the descendants of the people who resisted the Chinese invasion into the mountainous regions of what is now southern China and northern Vietnam some 2,000 years ago. This forced migration eventually brought them to the valleys and hills of Laos, Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia. But even in their new home, they were not safe. The Hmong were once again on the move, this time fleeing the armies of another empire, the Thai, who sought to conquer and control the region. This second great migration lasted several centuries and saw the Hmong people spread throughout Southeast Asia, settling in the remote jungle regions of northeastern Thailand, the mountainous provinces of northern Laos, and the hills of Vietnam and beyond. It was during this time of upheaval and struggle that the Hmong began to develop many of the cultural traits and beliefs that would become synonymous with their identity. It's their animistic religion, which emphasizes the importance of nature and the spiritual world, as well as their unique art forms such as silverwork, weaving, and tattooing. All emerged as a way for the Hmong to express their cultural identity and assert their difference from those who would try to erase it. Throughout their long and winding history, the Hmong have fought back against those who have sought to dominate them. In the early 20th century, they took up arms against the French colonial rulers of Laos and Vietnam, fighting alongside other indigenous groups in an effort to win back their land and way of life. And in more recent times, they have continued to resist oppression and persecution. Most notably during the war in Laos, when the Hmong were targeted by the Communist Pathet Lao regime for their perceived loyalty to the U.S. Tens of thousands of Hmong had to flee their homes, becoming refugees in neighboring countries or in the United States, where many continue to live today. For centuries, the Hmong people lived in relative peace, undisturbed by the outside world, and free to cultivate their unique cultures. However, in the mid-20th century, the quiet solitude of their mountain homes was shattered. When the French began to encroach upon their lands, the Hmong were forced to flee deeper into the mountains. Taking refuge in the dense jungles of northern Laos, here they lived in relative isolation, cut off from the outside world and struggling to survive in the harsh terrain. Then came the war in Laos. As the conflict between the Pathet Lao and the Royal Lao Army intensified, the Hmong found themselves caught in the crossfire. The Pathet Lao, backed by the communist governments of North Vietnam and China, were determined to seize power and impose their ideology on the country. When the royal government collapsed in 1975 and the Pathet Lao took control, the Hmong became their main target. Accused of being loyal to the former royal government and collaborating with the Americans, they were persecuted, tortured, and killed. Entire villages were wiped out, and those who survived fled into the mountains, becoming refugees in their own country. Some crossed the Mekong River into northeastern Thailand, where they lived in refugee camps along the border, hoping to find a new life. In the United States, others escaped to the remote jungle regions of northern Laos, where they lived in hiding, evading the Laotian army and trying to maintain their culture and way of life. It was in these dire circumstances that the Hmong truly found their identity as a people. Their determination to survive and preserve their culture in the face of such adversity has made them an inspiration to others around the world. Their story is a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure and prevail in the face of even the most difficult challenges. Now let's talk about what happened next. You see, the persecution of the Hmong by the Pathet Lao didn't end at the border. In fact, it followed them into the jungles of northern Laos, where they were subjected to torture, forced labor, and even biological warfare. The Laotian army, aided by their allies in Vietnam and Cuba, hunted them down relentlessly, determined to crush any remaining resistance. But the Hmong were not an easy people to defeat. Led by visionary figures like General Vang Pao, they fought back with the ferocity of cornered tigers. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, they managed to hold their ground for years, inflicting heavy casualties on their pursuers. It was during this time that the Hmong really came into their own. Forced to rely on their wits and their courage, they developed guerrilla tactics that belied their lack of formal training. They used hit-and-run strategies, ambushes, and sabotage, always evading the larger Laotian army and striking back when least expected. The Hmong women also played an integral role in the resistance, serving not only as nurses and scouts, but also as fighters. Unwilling to let their families be slaughtered, they took up arms and fought alongside their men, defending their homes and way of life. Despite the odds being stacked against them, the Hmong continued to resist, holding out hope for a better future. They fought for their freedom, for their very survival, and in doing so, They created a legacy of courage and resilience that continues to inspire people around the world. But you know, all good stories must come to an end, right? Wrong. This is where the story takes a dark turn. The Thai government, pressured by the international community and eager to put distance between itself and the troublesome refugees, began pushing the Hmong back into Laos in the early 1980s. Many were forced to return to the very place they had fled, only to face even more persecution and violence at the hands of the Laotian army. Those who refused to go back were detained in Thai prisons where they were tortured and murdered. Others were sold to people smugglers who transported them across the border in the dead of night, only to abandon them in the jungle, hoping they would die of starvation or snakebite.
Right there.
And those who did survive the journey often found themselves imprisoned in refugee camps in northern Laos, where they were denied basic necessities and left to rot. But even in the darkest moments, the Hmong spirit of resistance shone through. Secret meetings were held in the jungle, plans were made, and hope was kept alive. The Hmong knew that they could not defeat the Laotian army in open battle, so they turned to the weapon they had always relied on: stealth and cunning. Small bands of Hmong warriors began launching hit-and-run attacks on Laotian army positions, targeting supply depots and killing as many soldiers as possible. They were not trying to win a war. They just wanted to survive. You might think that this is where the story ends, but it doesn't. Oh no, it gets worse. The Laotian army responded with a brutal campaign of revenge, burning Hmong villages to the ground and killing anyone who resisted. Whole families were wiped out, their bodies thrown into mass graves. But still, the Hmong refused to give up. Fleeing into the mountains, they lived on the slopes of Laos, hidden from the world. There they formed their own communities, raising children who grew up knowing nothing but the jungle. For decades, this was their life, living in fear of the next attack, struggling to find food and medical care. The world had forgotten them, but they were still alive, clinging to their culture and traditions and waiting for a chance to rebuild their lives. So you might wonder, why should you, a viewer, care about this story? What does it mean for you? Well, the story of the Hmong is a story about the strength of the human spirit, the will to survive against all odds. It's a story about the importance of fighting for what you believe in, no matter how hopeless the situation seems. It's a reminder that there is always hope, even in the darkest of times. So take a moment to appreciate the Hmong people, their courage, their strength, their resilience. Remember their story and let it inspire you to be better, to do better, to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And if you want to learn more about this amazing culture, check out the links in the description below. Who knows? You might just learn something that changes your life forever. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning about the Hmong identity and tracing their migration from Southeast Asia. If you want to support our channel, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.